Any further members seek recognition?
Mr. Chair,
Chair, recognize Ms. Crockett.
I have an amendment at the desk.
So there's 5. Will the clerk, everyone has the amendment, everyone has the Crockett amendment on the desk. Will the clerk please report the amendment?
An amendment to the rules of the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform for the 119th Congress is offered by Ms. Crockett of Texas.
Without objection, the amendment is considered as read. I reserve a point of order. The gentlewoman is recognized for 5 minutes to explain her amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. During the 118th Congress, Oversight Republicans disbanded one of the most important subcommittees in Congress, the Subcommittee on Civil Rights and Civil Liberties. And now in the 119th Congress, the chairman and House Republicans have decided to prioritize the demands of the real president, Elon Musk, and his billionaire friends over the need.
Well, she should take a little jab at him. It's not necessary. I'll go into that a little deeper later on, but I don't see the need. I don't see the benefit
Of the American people. Now, we are about to approach the birthday of Martin Luther King. It's actually tomorrow. And on January 20th will be the inauguration of Donald Trump, but it will also be the observation of MLK Day. And the fact that we have decided that in this country we are not going to honor civil rights should be something that we all take issue with. Considering the fact, for some that don't know what civil rights are about, because some people only believe that it deals with black folk, let me explain. Civil and political rights are a class of rights that protect individuals.
Okay, just real quick, you guys. She's just drawing a line here to let us know that when we're talking about civil rights, we're not only talking about black folk. Now, why she's talking at all at that point, that should have been the end of her presentation right there, but she's going further. So if the civil rights that she's speaking of doesn't just speak of black folk, who is she talking about?
Freedom from the infringement by governments, social organizations, and private individuals. They ensure one's entitlement to participate in the civil and political life of society and the state. Defined another way, the right to be free from discrimination, the freedom to worship as we choose, the right to vote for our elected representatives, the protections of due process, the right to privacy. If any of that sounds familiar, it is because these are rights that are born out of our Constitution.
Yeah, but it wouldn't sound familiar because it's born out of our Constitution, because all the stuff she just said is in the Constitution, but it doesn't refer to black people. So what I'm trying to figure out here is, who is she talking about? I mean, she is talking about what? I'm really having an issue with Jasmine Crockett, because I'm getting a bad feeling, and this isn't going well. And I think by the end of this video, I will have arrived at a conclusion, and it ain't looking good for her.
Something that we all supposedly have sworn an oath to, and we swear to not only, we don't just swear to it, we are supposed to protect those rights. Interestingly enough,
But that's the ignorantest thing in the world to me, is that all these black politicians want to fight to preserve rights that they don't even have. It don't even make sense. What are you preserving? And who are you preserving it for? If you don't have an actual or access to this stuff, then how in the hell are you, and why in the hell would you be fighting for it? And for who are you fighting for? Are you trying to preserve it so later on down the line, one day your kids... It doesn't make a lot of sense. You're preserving what for who? This right here, this conversation, I'm so confused, but it's starting to make a little bit of sense to me.
we just had the funeral of one of our beloved presidents.
Jimmy Carter.
And I caught a flight to Austin on the day of the funeral. And I had the honor of sitting next to someone who was a little familiar with the White House. That person was Lucy Baines Johnson.
Lyndon Baines Johnson's daughter.
And when I tell you that she is a wealth of information, I really mean that. And when we had an opportunity to talk about what she experienced as her father was president.
Did she have to pee? She hopping and shit. She need to sit still. I'm telling you guys, she don't have to pee. She nervous because she lying. Because she's up there. She's up there lying. I see where she's going with this now. When you talk about Lyndon Baines Johnson, you're talking about the Voting Act of 1964. And that's what she's talking about. She's trying to get the civil rights juices flowing in black people so she can direct them somewhere else, like Obama did. He got all of our support and directed it to the LGBT community. Hillary, all our support and directed it to corporations. She's a corporate. Biden, all of our support and directed to illegal immigrants. That's what they do. They don't give us anything for our support. They just do what they think is the best thing. And it's never anything for us. So they don't ever think anything for us is the best thing, no matter how much support we give them. And now they got a new one. She's trying to whip us up into a frenzy so she can misdirect us somewhere.
And during a time in which, honestly, our country was on fire, and I would argue that, unfortunately, our country is on fire right now. When I first ran for office, I ran for the state house and said that we were in the midst of a modern-day civil rights movement, and I have not been convinced otherwise just yet. But this is the daughter of the president.
She hasn't been convinced otherwise. So we're in the middle of a big civil rights movement. Then why don't you and the Congressional Black Caucus do something? Why don't you guys, if you were in the middle of something big, what are you doing about it as an elected official? Other than a bunch of rhetoric and bickering.
That signed the Civil Rights Act of 1964. She was also there when he signed the Voting Rights Act of 1965. And to be perfectly honest, without that voting rights, I don't believe that I actually would have a seat in Congress. And
then maybe that voting right bill wasn't all good. You know, some people benefited from it. And she admitted that right there. And what are you doing as a result of that benefit? All of us, when we get small gains, and then you have to turn around and repay the person who, it has to almost always be a white person in power to give you that leg up and that step up. But then if you are in debt to them, then how can you ever help your people? Because he only helped you because you can help him because of your blackness. You can get the support of your people, but not to help them, but to help whatever this person really wants you to go on and do for them. LGBT, corporations, immigration, everything but us. And that's what I'm saying. And she's in training, and we're gonna have to keep a close eye on her and back our support up. Let her know, nah, we ain't that stupid. We ain't falling for it.
so I do believe in preserving the fact that everyone should be entitled to real and true representation, because I do.
Who is she talking about? In the beginning of her speech, she said very clearly, every time people hear about civil rights, they think you're talking about black folk. Civil rights is everybody. But she ain't out there fighting for everybody. Who's she out there fighting for right now?
Have a Section 2 seat as our Voting Rights Act has been decimated. But one of the stories that she told me was that her father asked her about coming over to the Congress for the signing of the bill as it relates to the Voting Rights Act. Now, for her, it was a bit inconvenient as an 18-year-old to have to leave the White House and go over to Congress, and she asked her father.
A bit inconvenient. For 18 years old. If you get to go to Congress, the White House, the Capitol, anywhere, but it's inconvenient. See that? What a choice of words. Hey, oh, Dad, why do we have to go over there? It's an inconvenience. Yeah.
Why should we go over to the Congress, Daddy, to sign this particular bill? And she said, we need to go over to the Congress because we need to pay due respect to those members of Congress that knew that voting for this bill meant that they would not be returning to Congress, but they had the courage to do what.
White congressmen and senators who voted for the Voting Act bill, who were probably a lot of Democrats, and they lost their seats because the country was racist and not ready for that kind of shit, is what she's saying. So he went over pretty much to say, hey, good looking out. Appreciate the support, but I know you're going to lose your whole career over this shit, but I really appreciate it. And that's a level of bravery and self-sacrifice that makes sense to me. But she's telling that story to say what?
Was right for this country and make sure that everyone's voices were going to be heard. The one thing that we could do, the very small thing that we could do, is have a little bit of courage and decide that we are going to reinstitute this particular subcommittee because unfortunately.
See, she's fighting right now for the subcommittee to be reinstituted. So they'll bring it back. It was taken away. We need it back. But she's still not telling us why. You notice she's just never coming directly out with it. She's just saying, we need the subcommittee. Oh, no, we got to have the subcommittee. And then she keeps referencing the Black Civil Rights era, which would make you think, will make me think, oh, so she want to get the subcommittee back so she can fight for black people. She want to get that subcommittee back so she can fight for LGBTQ people. And I ain't nothing about the LGBTQ, nothing against them, but she black. She's a member of the Congressional Black Caucus. She's not a member of the LGBTQ caucus. There is not one. So what I'm saying is, why do our black politicians fight for all kind of other shit? Why do the Democrats, with our such high levels of our support, always fight for all this other stuff and none of it ever involves us? That's all I'm talking about in simple form. And why is Jasmine Crockett taking us all around the moon? Just to, she could have took a couple of steps and been way more direct than what she's been, and more honest.
I don't see the type of courage that the people that served back in the 60s had coming out of some of our colleagues. And so
She's right. And she wants to let everybody know they're as racist now as they were then. And you're just added they didn't have the black congressmen and the black senators, so they had to learn how to deal with them. And they did very easily. They just put them to work, give them something to do. But it cannot be for your people. You cannot, for everybody else in this country is not bound in that way. That's a form of slavery in itself. Why can Asian people really go fight for Asian people? Why can you never hear no Asian person being put in front of a camera and fighting for LGBT like that? It's not in their culture. There are LGBTQ Asians, Africans, but some of these cultures, Saudi Arabians, they just ain't with the LGBTQ. And we ain't either as a culture, but we are being used to be the face of abortion, the face of LGBTQ. All our elected officials are using all their political capital to fight for everything but black people. And she's in training.
Asking you to do the courageous thing today and just institute a subcommittee that would make sure that we are looking out for those protections of everyone in this country, to make sure that we have real freedom, something that we all supposedly espouse to believe in. And with that, I will yield.
Mr. Chairman.
Gentlelady's time's expired. Any member seek recognition?
Yes.
Mr. Higgins? Oh, Ms. Mace was first. I'm sorry. Ms. Mace.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, I don't know what's going on today. I find it extremely rich and offensive. So,
first off, I'm going to tell you, this lady here is a perfect example of who this country was built for. This country was really built for white people, and she is a white person. And listen to what she's saying and how she's saying and the confidence in her tone. She ain't trying to persuade nobody is shit. Her directness in the way she's speaking wakes up something in people, and because it's the direct nature of her speak, as opposed to what we just heard with the representative Jasmine Crockett. I'm disappointed.
We're talking about civil rights. I'm the former ranking member on the Civil Rights Subcommittee, something I believe in civil rights and civil liberties of all Americans. And we were talking about infringement of individual people. Also, quote, the right to privacy of individuals. Coming from a party that can't define what a woman is and won't give women the right to privacy. You all want men with penises, chicks with dicks, in the bathroom with us. You want women to be forced to undress in front of men in the locker.
Yeah, now you guys see what it's all about. Jasmine Crockett wants to package up her little fight as a subcommittee fight. We got to get the subcommittee back, the Civil Rights Subcommittee. Why is that a subcommittee? That need to be a real fucking committee. Civil rights of the citizens of the goddamn country, and it's a subcommittee that can be just turned off like a light. That's what I'm trying to say, is that she ain't even fighting for the subcommittee to come back for what the subcommittee was created to do. Fight for black people. That's it. Because nobody else in this country is still in anything close to slavery but us. We're the only ones whose politicians, whose millionaires, whose billionaires, whose leaders, whose news reporters all have to report something that's being told to them by someone of another race. We don't ever get to speak for ourselves. They like us because we are programmable. And it seems to be working out just fine for them. And this lady is a perfect example of the boldness and the way white people are in this country. And it ain't nothing wrong with it. It's just a boldness that we need to aspire to be like, so that we can combat that and not always be taking orders. We are straight out taking orders. Crockett is taking orders from some black politicians to take their position so they can trust her. They can't be retiring. That's why they go into their 80s and 90s, because if they don't trust you, they ain't retiring. They will die in that seat before they, because they have a relationship with the Democratic Party that they're not going to relinquish. And Jasmine Crockett is a very important link, because she inspires people with the way she speaks, but it's combative. It's argumentative. You don't heckle the president and talk shit about his closest advisor and all that, when what you're really trying to do is bring back a subcommittee so that you can fight for LGBTQ rights. And you know that's going to piss Trump off. So basically you're just talking so that people could think that you're fighting. If a LGBTQ person listen to this, they'd say, oh yeah, Jasmine Crockett is out there down for us. She doing the damn thing. But then if a black person who ain't really listening real good is listening to that, and they already just kind of heard part of your speech, and you mentioned Martin Luther King's birthday, and then you mentioned your ride next to Lyndon B. Johnson's daughter, and people say, wow, she's on there talking black. And then but they ain't listening to parts when you saying, but civil rights ain't only about black folk. See, they make sure you guys say that. Kamala was saying that kind of shit. They find black people who will do it, and you doing it.
Locker room and in dressing rooms, and it's so hypocritical for you to sit here and say and be screaming from the rooftops about the right to privacy and civil rights when you don't respect women, and you don't respect women who've been raped, women who are victims of sexual abuse, and you want me, a victim of rape, a survivor of rape, to go into a locker room and be forced to undress in front of a man? You have to be effing kidding me.
Yeah, I wouldn't want my daughter or my wife exposed to that. I would want the females in my family protected. And if one of my family relatives as a female, worked at night, was in a place that wasn't too safe, but was using the restroom, and heard a man on a cell phone in the stall next to her. Shit, no. She'd be like, oh my goodness, wouldn't that make you nervous? I mean, if you vote Democrat and then the Democrats that you vote for are supporting laws that will bring that to your real life, then maybe you are voting for the wrong party. That can't be right. You feeling unsafe and scared.
So I don't want to hear about you talk about rights, individual rights, civil rights, because you can't find the courage from the 60s to fight for women all around America. Fight for women like me, every single woman. And as a rape survivor, I shouldn't have to explain to you why women have rights and why women, when we're in the bathroom, when we're in the locker room, when we're in a dressing room, why I don't feel safe when there is a man nearby. And the fact that we're going here and
especially in restrooms. I mean, it could be a trans man just using the restroom, or it could be a man who snuck into the women's restroom and is hiding. I mean, you know, it's just or dressing as a woman to get into the women's. It's just way too dangerous for us to invite the potential just to make a small population comfortable, when we got a whole population of black people that we need to make comfortable.
we're going to say all these things, is the ripeness of hypocrisy on the Hill. People need to tell the truth. And if we're going to talk about the rights of individuals, we have to talk about it. Everybody has rights, including women. And at some point, men are infringing on the rights of women. We just had it today. We just had a vote about protecting women and girls in sports. And I believe it wasn't one, it was two people from the Democrat Party who voted to protect women's rights in sports today. Two.
And they're talking about the men and the women competing. I mean, that's just crazy. Why in the heck would anybody want their, 17 or 18-year-old daughter, who's in the martial arts to make it to the final only to get knocked out by a guy? Man, no one wants that.
So this is, Mr. Chairman, this is a deeply offensive conversation to me today. We want to talk about real freedom. Women have freedom in this country. Women have the freedom to go to a private women's only space and not see a man in it. Women have the right to change and not be feared that somebody with their sexual perversion, someone who's confused about their gender, we have the right to feel safe in these spaces. We have the right to know that we're not going to have trans people filming us in the bathroom. How many of these trannies are taking selfies? These men are taking selfies in women's spaces, in the bathroom. It's gross. It's disgusting. So if we're going to talk about civil rights, let's talk about the rights of women in this country and how you are stripping them away every single day. And you're doing it in your legislation. You're doing it in your messaging. You're doing it on X. You're making women feel unsafe in this country. And you're making the opportunity for women and girls to be raped, to be sexually abused in this country even greater than they've ever been. So don't come over here with your attitude and talk to me.
With your attitude. See, that right there is what Jasmine Crockett is bringing out, the Marjorie Taylor Greens, the bickering back and forth, and that unprofessional shit that gets us nowhere. We ain't getting nowhere with that. Everybody just know her as the one who ain't gonna take no shit. She taking shit from somebody else. She ain't gonna take no shit on it because she's trained to fight against that little shit they doing out there. But the people who are really directing her, that's when you know if she's really not taking no shit. Turn around and be like, I ain't going up there and say that ignorant ass shit. No, get somebody else to do it. Nobody else want to do that shit. Her and AOC right now are, in a place that I wish they weren't, because it's terrible. We need to break away from this old Democratic Party.
About rights when you're trying to take my rights as a woman, a rape survivor, away. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. Any member seek?
Yeah, ultimately, after Mace talked, Representative Mace, then I got it. Because when Crockett was talking, I was figuring, I really wasn't, but I mean, this is what she was trying to lead me to figure, is that she wants to bring back a subcommittee so that she can fight for the rights of everybody. It's just the right thing to do. It's a very important subcommittee. And it's always been there for black people. And then Latinos and Asians and other people begin to reap the benefits of that subcommittee. But the thing that we must be clear on is she ain't trying to bring that back right now for any of that kind of stuff. She's angling toward the LGBT fight that they're getting ready to have against Trump and his folks. I get it, whatever. But why couldn't she just say the word LGBT once? Why couldn't she say trans once or even reference where she was going instead of being so vague, but using the credibility of the Civil Rights March to make her argument on? But this ain't about black folks. Because every time you hear about civil rights, it's about black folk. But this ain't. Well, then don't talk about us at all then. Don't bring us up in any fucking part of your conversation. Bring up some wonderful LGBTQ people that have made progress. Harvey Milk and people and shit. Don't bring us up into this. Because the white girl went right to it. I don't want no chicks with dicks in my bathroom. Fuck it. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. We'll see you on the next one.